Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Shri Shri Radha Vino Bihari Mandir, Shri Vrindavan Dham. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Patit Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinama Sankirtana ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Madhavatite Ekadashi ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. That was the best ulu I've ever heard Sudevi do. I didn't even know she could do that. Not like that. Is it new Shringa or Rudra? It's definitely new flowers. So we will begin with Mangalacarana, the auspicious invocation, invoking, calling on the presence, the grace, the mercy, the sidelong glances of our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, our beloved Srila Prabhupada, our Rupa Anuga Gauriya Guru Varga, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Prem Purushottam Shachinandan Gaura Hari, going all the way back to the original Guru who is Krishna himself, and his Guru of Prem, Vrishabhanu Nandini, Srimati Radha Thakurani. As Krishna says, and you can find it in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radhikar Prema Guru Ami Shishya Nata. Radhika is my Guru of Prem, and I'm simply her dancing pupil. She makes me dance according to her tune. In other words, pure love in its highest form completely captivates and controls Krishna. So we will call to all of these divine and transcendental personalities for their mercy upon us in the form of this Mangalacharan, which you can find on page 1 of this very beautiful bhajan treasure trove, Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha, starting with Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Harjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitangscha Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Shri Mar Bhakti Vedanta Narayanitti Namine Shri Krishna Leela Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunashcha Yuktam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Kangshirashan Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Shri Krishna Pada Jagadaika Hindi Chaitanya Leela Amrita Sarasaram Narayanam Kang Satatam Prapadye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitti Namine नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय गौरप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्री श्रीमद्भक्ति प्रज्ञानो केशवो युक्तिनामिने अतिमर्त्यचरित्राय स्वश्रितानां च पालिने जीवदुःखे सदरताय श्रीनाम प्रेमदायिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती नामिने श्रीवर्षभानवी देवी दयिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञानोदयिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वलप्रेमाद्यं श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदान श्रीगौरकरुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दिनकारिणे रूपानुगविरुद्धाप सिद्धान्तध्वन्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षाद्वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भरसम्बोधे पदाम्बुजायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगव्वरायते गौराविर्भावभूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्टा सजनप्रिय वैष्णव सर्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्तो राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतां सुरतो पङ्गो मम मन्दमतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदम्बोजो राधामदनमोहनो दिव्यदृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमद श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थो श्री श्रीराधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेव प्रेष्ठानिभिः सेव्यमानुस्मरामि श्रीमन्द्रसरसारम्भी वंशिवत्ततस्थितः कार्षन्वेणुस्वरैर्गोपीर्गोपीनाथ श्रियेस्तु नः वृन्दाये तुलसीदेव्यै प्रियायै केशवस्य च कृष्णभक्तिप्रदे देवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावग्निर्वापनम् श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दमृतिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Harer Nam Harer Nam Harer Nam eva kevalam Kalu nastyeva 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 gatiranyatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat pranam all Vaishnavas. Page 359 by our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosai Maharaj, Guru Charana Kamal Bhajaman. And if you do not have this Gaudiya Giti Gucha, then you may consult Jiva Pavana Prabhu, who posts the bhajans in the comments section of the thread, along with their translations and commentaries from our acharyas. Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Guru Charana Kamala Bhajaman Krpa bina nahi koi sadhan ban Guru Krpa bina nahi koi sadhan ban Bhaja mano bhaja anuksha Charana kamala bhajaman Bhajam mano bhajaya nuksha Charana kamala bhajaman Guru Charana kamala bhajaman Guru Charana kamala bhajaman मिलता नहीं ऐसा दुर्लभ जानमो मिलता नहीं ऐसा दुर्लभ जानमो ब्रह्मत हूँ 14 भुवन ब्रह्मत प्रमतपुचोदः भुवन् प्रमतः चोदः भुवन् प्रमतः चोदः भुवन् किसी को मिलते हैं अहो भाग्यों से किसी को मिलते हैं अहो भाग्यों से हरि भक्तों के दर्शन चरण कमल भजमन हरि भक्तों के दर्शन चरण कमल भजमन गुरु चरण कमल भजमन गुरु चरण कमल भजमन कृष्ण कृपा की आनंद मूर्ति कृष्ण कृपा की आनंद मूर्ति दीन जनों करुणा निदान दीन जनों करुणा निदान दीन जनों करुणा निदान दीन जनों करुणा निदान भक्ति भाव प्रेम तीन प्रकाश तो भक्ति भाव प्रेम तीन प्रकाश तो श्री गुरु पतित पावन श्री गुरु पतित पावन ओ श्री गुरु पतित पावन श्री गुरु पतित पावन गुरु चरण कमल भजमन गुरु चरण कमल भजमन श्रुति स्मृति इतिहास पुराण माही श्रुति स्मृति इतिहास पुराण माही तीनों स्पष्ट प्रमाण तीनों स्पष्ट प्रमाण तीनों स्पष्ट प्रमाण तीनों स्पष्ट प्रमाण तन मन जीवन गुरुपदे अर्पण तन मन जीवन गुरुपदे अर्पण सदा हरि नाम रतन चरण कमल भजमन सदा हरि nahi koi sadhan bhaj mano bhaj anukshan charana kamala bhajaman o bhajamana bhaj anukshan charana kamala bhajaman guru charana kamala bhajaman guru charana kamala bhajaman guru deva jai guru deva jai guru deva jaya guru deva jaya guru deva jai guru deva guru deva jai guru deva jaya prabhupada jai prabhupada prabhupada jai prabhupada jaya prabhupada jai prabhupada jai prabhupada jai prabhupada guru parampara 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 Srila Gurudev ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai Shri Guru Parampara ki jai A Baro Karuna Koro, Vaisnava Gosai by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, calling for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Page 44 in our Gaudiya Giti Gucha. E Baro Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai E Baro Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita pavana tomar bine ke hona Patita pavana tomar bine ke hona O kaharo te gele papo dure jaye kaharo nikate gele papo dure jaye e mono doyalo ke bako thapa e mo গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পশ্চাতে পাব গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পশ্চাতে পাব দর্শনে পবিত্র করো এই তোমারো গুণ দর্শনে পবিত্র করো এই তোমারো গুণ হরি স্থানে অপরাধে তারে হরি নাম হরি স্থানে অপরাধে তারে হরি নাম তোমা স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয়ে রাম তোমা স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয়ে রাম তোমার হৃদয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম তোমার হৃদয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম গোবিন্দ কোহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব পরাণ গোবিন্দ কোহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব পরাণ প্রতি জন্মে করি আশা চরণের ধূলি প্রতি জন্মে করি আশা চরণের ধূলি নরোত্তমে করো দয়া আপনার বলি নরোত্তমে করো দয়া আপনার বলি এবারো করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব গোসাই বারো করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব গোসাই পতিত পাবন তোমা বিনে কেহ পতিত পাবন তোমা বিনে কেহ না জয় বৈষ্ণব গোসাই জয় বৈষ্ণব গোসাই বৈষ্ণব গোসাই জয় বৈষ্ণব গোসাই জয় বৈষ্ণব গোসাই বৈষ্ণব গোসাই বৈষ্ণব গোসাই Gosai, Jaya Vaisnava Gosai, Prabhu Krpa Koro, More Doya Koro, Prabhu Krpa Koro, More Doya Koro, Prabhu Krpa Koro, More Doya Koro, Prabhu Krpa Koro, More Doya Koro. All Vaishnava Thakurs ki Jai. And now we will call for the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami. Visaya Vasana Rupa, Vasana Rupa, Chitera Vikar, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, page 48. Dandava Pranam al Vaishnava. Visaya Vasana Rupa Chittera Vikaro, Visaya Vasana Rupa Chittera Vikaro, Amaro Hridoye Bhoga Kore Anibaro, Yamaro Hridoye Bhoga Kore Anibaro, Koto je jatono yami korilam hai, Koto je jatono yami korilam hai, Nagelo vikaro buddhi sheshe prano jai, Nagelo vikaro buddhi sheshe prano jai, Eghoro vikaro more korilo yasthiro, Eghoro vikaro more korilo yasthiro, Shanti na pailo sthano antaro adhiro, Shanti na pailo sthano antaro adhiro, Shri Rupa Goswami more Krpa Vitoriya, Shri Rupa Goswami more Krpa Vitoriya, Udharibe Kobe Jukto Vairagyo Yarpiya, Udharibe Kobe Jukto Vairagyo Yarpiya, Kobe Sanatano more Charaye Vishayo, Kobe Sanatano more Charaye Vishayo, Nityanande Samarpive Hoya Sadoya, Nityanande samarpibe hoiya sadoya. Shri Jiva Goswami Kabe Siddhanta Shalile. Shri Jiva Goswami Kabe Siddhanta Shalile. Nibhaibe Tarkanolo Chitta Jahe Jwale. Nibhaibe Tarkanolo Chitta Jahe Jwale. Shri Chaitanya Namo Shune Udibe Pulaka. Shri Chaitanya Namo Shune Udibe Pulaka. Radha Krishna Amrita Pane Oibo Yashoka. Radha Krishna Amrita Pane Oibo Yashoka. Kangalero sukangalo durjano ejano. Kangalero sukangalo durjano ejano. Vaisnava charanashroyo jacheyo kinchano. Vaisnava charanashroyo jacheyo kinchana. Jaya Rupa Goswami Prabhu, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami Prabhu, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami Prabhu, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami Prabhu, Rupa Goswami. Rupa Sanatan Jai Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan Jai Rupa Sanatan, Jai Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan Jai Rupa Sanatan. Prabhu hai, 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 Prabhu hai. Shri Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. And now, as today is Ekadashi, we will call on the mercy of Ekadashi Devi in the form of the bhajan Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukul. Page 216. So this is by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and really it's discussing all of the things that are favorable for bhakti, starting with the dust from the lotus feet of the pure devotees is most favorable for bhajan, and service to them is the highest perfection and the very root of the Krpa of Prem. Someone asked the other day, publicly, what's the last thing, if you only had one day left to live, what would you pray for? And So many were writing Krishna Prem, Shuddha Nam, but I was remembering all of the teachings of our Guru Varga and the prayers of the Vaishnavas. Whenever Krishna would ask any devotee, pure devotee, what do you want? They always say, please keep me in the association of your pure devotees. Please keep me under their guidance so that I can always hear your glories. So this is proving the point that the root cause of the birth of Krishna Bhakti, or devotion to Krishna, is the association of his pure devotees. And even after the attainment of perfection, after the attainment of Krishna Prem, still the most essential thing is the association of Krishna's pure devotees. So service to those pure devotees is the highest perfection and the very root of the Krpa of Prem. But all of these different aspects which are mentioned here, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, residing in the Dham, taking Mahaprasad, serving and seeing the form of the deities, seeing the Ganga, serving and honoring Tulsi Devi, all of these different aspects, when applied on such days like Ekadashi, this is really the speciality of Ekadashi, Bhakti Janani. That if we observe any activity on the path of Bhakti, giving honor to Ekadashi on this special day, which is the day of the Lord not different from himself, that this gives birth, it gives nourishment to our Bhakti. Today, one devotee, Vrindavan Vilasini Didi, posted to me on WhatsApp a conversation from Jaiva Dharma about Ekadashi. And Ekadashi has always been followed since forever, because Ekadashi is eternal and transcendental and is manifested directly from Krishna out of his causeless mercy toward the suffering jivas, especially those who are suffering in hellish conditions. So many people follow Ekadashi with a karmakandic slant. In other words, to get some material result. In other words, freedom from suffering. So their following the Ekadashi is for the purpose of jnana and karma. Either to get liberation, freedom from dualities, or to get some cessation from their suffering, maybe a temporary covering. So this is for materialistic purposes. And easily Ekadashi can grant this. But Vaishnavas, they do not follow Ekadashi for this purpose at all. In fact, back in the day, I remember Gurudev specifically telling, when they were coming out with that book, the Ekadashi book, who was doing that? Krishna Balaram Swami, back in the day, way back in the day. I think I was in Vrindavan Gurukul at the time when he manifested that book, and it has so much of this karmakandic section in it. And in that book, it's saying if you follow this Ekadashi, then you get this reward and the cessation of your sins and this kind of material benefit and enjoyment in the heavenly planets for thousands of years, and then awakening of pure bhakti. So I remember Gurudev saying that he came and asked me what I thought about it, and I told him, don't do it. Don't publish this book. Especially for devotees, it would impress within devotees that the purpose for Ekadashi is jnana and karma. But these are not included within pure bhakti. Pure bhakti, or uttama bhakti, is devoid of the desire for jnana and karma. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilaram bhaktir uttama. Thank you for posting that, Rudra Gupta. You are like a Wikipedia or Google for all of this. So the subtle difference between the sadhana performed as an aspect of karma and sadhana performed as an aspect of bhakti may be known only by the mercy of Bhagavan. The bhaktas attain the primary result, whereas the karmis are caught up in the secondary results, which may be broadly divided into two categories, namely bhukti, material sense enjoyment, and mukti, liberation. The paragraph before that, when one worships Krishna through the path of karma, the mind is purified, and one may attain material fruits, freedom from disease or liberation. When it says fruits here, it doesn't literally mean mangoes and apples and pears and peaches. This means some reward. Yes, I didn't understand that when I was a child, so I'm just sharing that in case there's any children watching. But the same worship of Krishna through the path of bhakti produces only prem for Krishna Nam. When karmis who follow the path of karma observe Ekadashi, it eradicates their sins. Whereas when bhaktas observe Ekadashi, it enhances their Hari Bhakti. Just see what a world of difference there is. So, we understand also what Rupa Goswami wrote in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhukti Mukti Spriha Javatapi Shachi. The desire for bhukti, material sense gratification, sense enjoyment, and mukti, liberation or freedom from material sufferings. Liberation meaning the cessation of material suffering. This kind of mukti is actually the idea of basically ceasing to experience your independent existence from the divinity, from the divine energy. In other words, nirvana. The desires for these things. One, bhukti, which is sense gratification. And two, also not serve the Lord for an indefinite amount of time. Because that is not service to the Lord. That is basically taking service from the Lord. That I don't want to experience suffering, but I also don't want to experience any spiritual variety. So let me experience nothingness or oneness. The desires for this thing are like a ghost or a witch, which completely bewilder and delude the mind of those persons who are desiring them. So Rupa Goswami wrote this. Jiva Goswami very strongly defended it. It is not that mukti itself is that, but it is the desire for such a thing. The desire for it. Just like the conversation that we've been having. It's not that men or women are bad. It is only the lust which is not favorable. Any jiva is embodied, but the jiva is not bad and the body is made of matter. But the attraction and attachment to that matter, that is what is binding in this samsara. So bhukti and mukti, or the desire for such, this is not favorable and not included within pure bhakti. Jnana karma adi anavritam. It is not covered or confused with these different things. So Ekadashi, when we are following Ekadashi, it should be for no other purpose. Not because, well, you get to fast every 2 weeks and that fasting day is really good for your health because it gives your stomach a rest. That's a given. If you follow it for Krishna Bhakti, if you follow it for its highest gift, which is nourishing devotion to Krishna, then automatically you get all of the other benefits that it gives without even a second thought. Without a second thought, automatically you get the health benefits, you get the benefit of some kind of a peacefulness of the mind. You get so many other benefits. Just like dancing in kirtan. If you're dancing in kirtan, you get the benefits of cardiovascular exercise. But you don't need to think separately, let me get some cardiovascular exercise and sweat and breathe very quick. Aerobic and anaerobic exercise. That's not the purpose of kirtan. And then when you go down into obeisances position afterward, you're doing stretching and yoga. But you don't need to think about that. It's happening automatically. You are offering your pranam to all Guru Varga, Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, all of Radha and Krishna, Harinam Prabhu. So that is automatically happening. Everything is automatically taking place when one is serving Krishna. Not only that, but the more one devotes themselves to the process of Krishna Bhakti or devotion to Krishna, then all of the other potencies and powers come and try to serve that person. Lakshmi, money, mystic powers, the liberation itself. So many things come to assist and help, and they become subservient to Bhakti Devi herself. So, as aspiring devotees, I'm really thinking about this term a lot lately. I use the term very loosely. I'm a devotee. Am I really a devotee? Am I really devoted? Fully? Even half? 1/3? 10%? How devoted am I? What is a devotee or a devotee? In the same way that it's very easy to throw around the term sadhu. But what is a sadhu? Our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj has produced a beautiful and powerful article entitled How to Properly Identify a Vaisnava or a Sadhu. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada came here to Vrindavan, he said, I have searched everywhere and I have not seen one. Not one. Whereas many other people were saying, wow, look at how so many sadhus and pure devotees. I just read today from, there's a quote from Srila Gaur Kishoras Babiji Maharaj. He had gone with a disciple of his to one Bhagavatam recital by some prominent personality in Vrindavan. And that disciple was so enamored. Wow, that was amazing. Bhagavatam, what did you think? And he said, I think we should wash this place with cow dung and cow urine to purify it. And the disciple was like, what are you talking about? This was Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam in itself is purifying. He said, I didn't hear any Bhagavatam. All I heard was money, money, money. Those who have the eyes to see, who are knowers and seers of the truth, they can detect the real stuff from the fake stuff. And there's a lot more fake stuff. The real stuff is very, very rare and very, very valuable. As Krishna said, even for such a person who has come just to the, Vasudeve Bhagavati, Samahatma Sudurlabha, who understands that Vasudeva, or the Supreme Lord, is topmost. This is very, very rare. But in one of the Puranas, Lord Shiva is speaking. And he's actually bringing it more and more and more refined. Out of millions of general persons, hardly one person will even seek the truth. Out of millions of those, hardly anyone will even attain to the Brahmabhuta stage. Out of millions and millions of those, hardly one will go to Vaikuntha. Out of millions of those, and he's discussing, and who attains Goloka Braj, Vrindavan. How rare is such a thing? And yet, somehow or other, by great causeless mercy, we have been, all of us, selected to receive in our life. And I'm using the word selected very selectively. Selected. Why us? Why now? I don't know. Great mercy. But we have been selected at this particular time to receive knowledge not only of the difference between the body and the spirit, but of pure devotional service. And not only pure devotional service up to Shantaras and Dasyaras, but Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and even within that Madhurya, Tattat Bhavachatmika, service to Radha and Krishna in the Nikunjas of Vrindavan, under the guidance of their dearmost associates. And then on top of that, coming at the time of Sri Sachinandan Gaurahari Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is unprecedented. They have combined and taken a form to show us how to develop that love and devotion. So although it is so rare and so impossible, seemingly impossible to attain, their dearmost person, Sri Gurudev, has manifested in our life, has come into our life, has smiled with us, has joked with us, has spoken and has given Harikatha and all beautiful refinements on the path of bhakti. For our own spiritual upliftment, and not just any kind of upliftment, assurance of attainment to that highest goal. As we spoke the other day in this verse, Nama Shrishtum Manamapi Girivarmaho Radhika Madhavasham. They have given us relationship with all of these divine personalities, with all of these divine holy places of Krishna's pastimes, and they have given us assurance to be able to attain that. We cannot count our blessings, not in millions and millions and millions of lifetimes. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada in his Upadeshavali, he said, the act of delivering even one jiva from the clutches of Maya is infinitely more benevolent than constructing unlimited free hospitals. It's unfathomable, really. One jiva from Maya. Even when the demigods see that any jiva has somehow broken free from the clutches of Maya, this fort of Durga. Durga means fort. They're just completely astonished, mesmerized. Oh my God, they did it, they did it. Flowers are being showered and they're like, Jai, Jai, Hari Bol. Amazing, you did it. And Sri Guru has descended from there into our lives. The condensed form of the mercy and compassion of Krishna to wake us up. Krishna is calling. Now is your time to serve. Wake up. Let's go. All of this other stuff, all of that material bondage, it's not really you. It's not who you are. It's not the reality. It's like a bad dream. Wake up. Let's serve Krishna together. So Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukul. To serve the lotus feet of such a personality, this is favorable for bhajan. Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi. By serving them, one will attain this highest perfection. It is the root cause of this Prema Lata, the awakening of divine loving service to Krishna and Srimati Radhika in Vrindavan. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukul, page 216. So remember, on Ekadashi, we don't pray for anything else. We honor and serve Ekadashi very, very carefully, just as we would serve Krishna himself. Jatane Palana Kori, very, very carefully, very diligently, serving Ekadashi as we would serve Krishna, and not asking Krishna for anything else. Gurudev said, if you follow Ekadashi properly with this mood, Ekadashi can also grant you prem. So, serving Ekadashi, why? Bhakti Janani. For the purpose of awakening and nourishing my devotional tendency toward Krishna, which is my own nature. But for that to be awakened, for that to be nourished, Krishna resides in these days. And we should also reside in these days. Instead of being in Maya Sangsar, especially on days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami like that, we should enter into Krishna's Sangsar. Krishnera Sangsar Koro, Chari Anachar, Jive Doya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharmasar. Always entering into the Sangsar of Krishna. It's also very, very busy. We can either be busy in the material world or busy in the spiritual world. Either way we have to be busy. Might as well be busy in a way that is ultimately beneficial, not only for us, but also pleasing to Krishna. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajanaya Anukula. Shuddha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karo Mula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karo Mula Sudha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Sudha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Madhavati Thi Bhakti Janani Jatane Palana Kori Madhavati Thi Bhakti Janani Jatane Palana Kori Krishna Vasati Vasati Boli Paramayadare Boli Krishna Vasati Vasati Boli Paramayadare Boli Sudha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Sudha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Gorayama Je Sabasthane Karalo Brahmana Range Gorayama Je Sabasthane Karalo Brahmana Range Se Sabasthano Heri Boyami Pranayi Bhakata Sange Se Sabasthano Heri Boyami Pranayi Bhakata Sange Shuddha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Mridanga Vadyo Shunite Mono Avasara Sada Jache Mridanga Vadyo Shunite Mono Avasara Sada Jache Gaura Bihito Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridoya Nache Gaura Bihito Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridoya Nache Shuddha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charan Renu Bhajanayanu Kula Jugala Murti Dekhiya Mora Paramayananda Hoya Jugala Murti Dekhiya Mora Paramayananda Hoya सेवा करिते होय सकल प्रपंच जाय प्रसाद सेवा करिते होय सकल प्रपंच जाय शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल जे दिन गृहे भजन देखी गृहे ते गोलोक भायो जे दिन गृहे भजन देखी गृहे ते गोलोक भायो चरण सिधु देखिया गंगा सुख नासीमा पायो चरण सिधु देखिया गंगा सुख नासीमा पायो शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल तुलसी देखी जुरायो प्राण माधव तो शनि जानी तुलसी देखी जुरायो प्राण माधव तो शनि जानी गौर प्रिय शाक सेवने जीवन सार्थक गौर प्रिय शाक सेवने जीवन सार्थक माने शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल भक्ति विनोद कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पायो जाहा भक्ति विनोद कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पायो जाहा प्रति दिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ये प्रति दिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ये शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल भक्त सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेम लतिकारो मूल भक्त सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेम लतिकारो मूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन यानुकूल माधव तिथि जय एकादशी जय माधव तिथि जय एकादशी जय माधव तिथि जय Madhavati Jai Ekadashi Jaya Madhavati Jai Ekadashi Madhavati Jai Ekadashi Jai Madhavati Jai Ekadashi Jaya Madhavati Jai Ekadashi Madhavati Ekadashi ki Tandava Pranam. When I was on this Gaur Priya Shaka Sevane, now I can't see it any other way. Every time we come to spinach, I think, fortunate spinach. Well, it's dear to the Lord, so it's fortunate. And those who receive that prasadam are also fortunate. Baro Sukher Khabor Gail Surabhi Kunjete Namer Hat Kuleche Kornitai. Page 164 by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, glorifying Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Baro Sukher Khabor Gail Baro Sukher Khabor Gail Surabhi Kunjete Namere Hat Khuleche Kodonitai Surabhi Kunjete Namere Hat Khuleche Kodonitai Sukher Khabor Gail Baro Sukher Khabor Gail Surabhi Kunjete Namer Hat Kuleche Kodanitai Surabhi Kunjete Namer Hat Kuleche Kodanitai Boro Mojar Kotatai Boro Mojar Kotatai Boro Mojar Kotatai Boro Mojar Kotatai Shraddha Mulye Shuddha Nam Se Hate Te Bikai Shraddha Mulye Shuddha Nam Se Hate Te Bikai Jata Bhakta Vrindabashi Bhakta Vrindabashi Jata Bhakta Vrindabashi Bhakta Vrindabashi Adhikari Dekhe Na Beche Daro Kashi Adhikari Dekhe Na Beche Daro Kashi Jadi Naam Kinbe Bhai Jadi Naam Kinbe Bhai Jadi Naam Kinbe Bhai Naam Kinbe Bhai Amar Sange Chalo Mahajaner Kache Jai Amar Sange Chalo Mahajaner Kache Jai Tumi Kinbe Krishna Naam Kinbe Krishna Naam Tumi Kinbe Krishna Naam Tumi Kinbe Krishna Naam তস্তুরি লইব আমি পূর্ণ হবে কাম, তস্তুরি লইব আমি পূর্ণ হবে কাম। বড় দয়াল নিত্যানন্দ, দয়াল নিত্যানন্দ, বড় দয়াল নিত্যানন্দ, বড় দয়াল নিত্যানন্দ। শ্রদ্ধা মাত্র লয়ে দেন পরময়ানন্দ, শ্রদ্ধা মাত্র লয়ে দেন পরময়ানন্দ। একবার দেখলে চোখে জল, একবার দেখলে চোখে জল, একবার দেখলে চোখে জল, একবার। গৌর বলে নিতাই দেন সকল সম্বল, গৌর বলে নিতাই দেন সকল সম্বল। দেন শুদ্ধ কৃষ্ণ শিক্ষা, শুদ্ধ কৃষ্ণ শিক্ষা দেন, শুদ্ধ কৃষ্ণ শিক্ষা, শুদ্ধ কৃষ্ণ শিক্ষা। জাতি ধন বিদ্যা বল না করে অপেক্ষা, জাতি ধন বিদ্যা বল না করে অপেক্ষা। অমনি ছাড়ে মায়া জাল, ছাড়ে মায়া জাল, অমনি ছাড়ে মায়া জাল, অমনি ছাড়ে মায়া জাল। গৃহে তাকো বনে থাকো না তাকে জঞ্জাল, গৃহে তাকো বনে থাকো না তাকে জঞ্জাল। আর নাই কো কলির ভয়, নাই কো কলির ভয়, আর নাই কো কলির ভয়, নাই। আচন্দালে দেন নাম নিতাই দয়াময়, আচন্দালে দেন নাম নিতাই দয়াময়। ভক্তি বিনোদ কি কই, অভক্তি বিনোদ কি কই, ভক্তি বিনোদ কি কই। নিতাই চাঁদের চরণ বিনা আর নাহি আশ্রয়, নিতাই চাঁদের চরণ বিনা আর নাহি আশ্রয়। বড় সুখে কবর গায়, বড় সুখের কবর গায়, বড় সুখের কবর গায়, বড় সুখের কবর গায়। সুরভি কুঞ্জেতে নামের হাত খুলেছে কোদ নিতাই, সুরভি কুঞ্জেতে নামের হাত খুলেছে কোদ নিতাই। নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই 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 হে, নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই 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 হে। নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই 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 হে। নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই নিতাই নিতাই, নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই 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 হে। নিতাই 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 নিতাই, নিতাই 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 হে, নিতাই হে, নিতাই হে, নিতাই হে, ও নিতাই হে, নিতাই হে, নিতাই হে, নিতাই হে। ও জয় নিত্যানন্দ রাম, নিত্যানন্দ রাম, নিত্যানন্দ রাম জয়, নিত্যানন্দ রাম জয়। নিত্যানন্দ রাম, নিত্যানন্দ রাম, নিত্যানন্দ রাম জয়, নিত্যানন্দ রাম। নিতাই হে গৌর হে, নিতাই হে গৌর হে, নিতাই হে গৌর হে, নিতাই হে গৌর হে। पतित पावन श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। Sundara Lala Sacira dulala nachata Shri Hari Kirtana mein. Page 361 in our Gaudiya Gitigucha, Sundara Lala Sacira dulala. Let's see, how many languages? Some Sanskrit, some Hindi, some Bangla, barely any English, and kind of a half Italian song. That's all. what our Gaudiya Vaishnava bhajans are. Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaur Hari Ki Jai. Isha Thakurani has heard my Italian song. I'm not going to sing it here. But it reminds me of Narottam Das Thakur when he's saying, Narottama Das Keno Nagelo Maria. That I've wasted my life in this material world. Why do I not just die? What is the purpose of this life? He's very heavy. Or Karuna na hoile kandiya kandiya prana na rakhibo ar. Without your mercy, weeping and weeping, I will not be able to maintain my life. So, Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachata Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachata Shri Hari Kirtan mein Nachat 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 Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein 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 Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Bhale Chandana Tilakam Manoharo Bhale Chandana Tilakam Manoharo Alakasho Bhe Kapolano mein Alakasho Bhe Kapolano mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Chire Chura Darshan Nirale Shire Chura Darshan Nirale Mana Phula Mala Hiya Par Dole Mana Phula Mala Hiya Par Dole Pahiran Pita Patambar Shobhe Pahiran Pita Patambar Shobhe Nupura Runu Jhunu Charanan mein Nupura Runu Jhunu Charanan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala Nachat Shri Hari Kirtan mein Sundara Lala Sacira dulala नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। कोई गावत है राधा कृष्ण नाम, कोई गावत है हरि गुण गान, कोई गावत है राधा कृष्ण नाम, कोई गावत है हरि गुण गान। मृदंग ताला मधुर रसाला, मृदंग ताला मधुर रसाला, कोई गावत है रंगन में, कोई गावत है रंगन में। सुंदर लाला सचीर दुलाला, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। सुंदर लाला सचीर दुलाला, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। सुंदर लाला सचीर दुलाला, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। सुंदर लाला सचीर दुलाला, नाचत श्री हरि कीर्तन में। जय सचिनंदन जय गौर हरि, जय सचिनंदन जय गौर हरि, जय सचिनंदन जय गौर हरि, सचिनंदन जय गौर हरि। गौर है 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 गौर है। प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। Jaya Jaya Jai Jai Sundara Nanda Kumar by Srila Rupa Goswami, page 344, calling out for becoming hopelessly attracted to Krishna. Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar, Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar, Nanda Kumar, Nanda Kumar, Nanda Kumar, Nanda Kumar, Jaya Jaya Sundara 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 Vrindavano tato Vihita Vasanta Vihar Vihita Vasanta Vihar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Abhinava Bhutmala Uchasamujvala Abhinava Bhutmala Uchasamujvala Kunchita Kuntala Bhar Kunchita Kuntala Bhar Pranayi Janerita Chandana Saha Krita Pranayi Janerita Chandana Saha Krita Churnita Baraghana Sar Churnita Baraghana Sar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Chatula Driganchala Rachita Rasochala Chatula Driganchala Rachita Rasochala Radha Madana Vikar Radha Madana Vikar Bhuvana Vimohana Manjula Nartana Bhuvana Vimohana Manjula Nartana Gati Valgita Manihar Gati Valgita Manihar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Adhara Virajita Mandatara Smita Adhara Virajita Mandatara Smita Lobhita Nija Parivar Lobhita Nija Parivar Nija Vallabha Jana Suhrit Sanatana Nija Vallabha Jana Suhrit Sanatana Chitta Vihara Davatar Chitta Vihara Davatar Jaya Jaya Sundara Krishna He, oh Krishna He, Krishna He, Krishna He, Krishna He. Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal Ki Jai. I've seen multiple requests for Radha Krpa Kataksha Stavaraja, praying for the merciful sidelong glance of Srimati Radhika. We just called out to Krishna, which is very pleasing to Srimati Radhika. And if we call out that one to her, even Krishna is begging for that merciful sidelong glance. Of course, his begging is in a different category than ours. He has Radha Prem, which drives him mad. Our goal is Krishna Prem with a leaning towards Srimati Radhika. So we are asking her for her merciful sidelong glance to engage us in her service and Krishna's service. So that starts with Munindra Brinda Bandite Triloka Shoka Harini, page 285. And I'm not sure, I don't know if it's the battery issue with the microphone. I think it could just be because it's plugged in through the electric system and the buzz is actually coming through the system itself, or maybe the mic is bad. It says it doesn't require a battery when you're plugged directly into the mobile phone. So I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I'll have to get a new one or try something else eventually. But thank you for bringing it to my attention. (285). And once again, this says, spoken by Shiva in the Urdhvam Naya Tantra. This is spoken by Shiva to Uma. But our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, I was present before him when he said this. He said, Lord Shiva could not have seen this darshan of Srimati Radhika. It must be that in his form as Gopishwar, he has overheard this katha from Sri Rupa Goswami, but Sri Rupa Manjari. And he's repeating this as Hari Katha, what he has heard from the personification of the Rup, of the beauty of Srimati Radhika. So I just wanted to share that with you. He's speaking it as Hari Katha, repeating what he has heard. Shravanam Kirtanam. And since it is quite long, we will sing it all together, not too quickly. Has it been posted yet? Vrishabhananandini Srimati Radha Thakurani ki Jai. Sudevi is always joining. Just sometimes you can't hear her voice. Indra Vrindavandite Triloka Shoka Harini Prasanna Bhaktra Pankaji Nikunja Bhumilasini Vrajendra Kataksha Bhajanam Ashoka Vrikshavallari Vitana Mandapastite Pravala Vala Pallava Prabharunandriko Mane Varabhaya Spurat Kare Prabhuta Sampadana Kada Karishyasi Hama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Anangaranga Mangala Prasanga Bhangura Bhuvam Savibramam Sasambramam Drigantamanapatane Nirantaram Vashikrita Pratitinam Danandane Kada Karishyasi Hamam Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Karit Suvarna Champaka Pradipta Gora Vigrahe Mukha Prabha Parashtrapurti Sharadindu Mandane Vichitra Chitra Sanchara Chakora Shamalochane Kada Karishyasi Hama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Madunmadati Yovane Pramodamana Mandite Priyanuragaranjite Kalavilasa Pandite Ananya Dhanya Kunjaraja Kamakere Govide Kada Karishyasi Hama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Hashesha Hava Bhavadhira Hirahara Purushite Prabhuta Shata Kumbha Kumbha Kumbhi Kumbha Sushtati Prashasta Mandahasya Churna Purna Sobhya Sagare Kada Karishyasi Hamam Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Mrinala Vallavallari Taranga Ranga Dorlate Latagralasya Rolanila Lochanavalokane Lallallulan Milan Manogya Mugdamohanashrite Kada Karishyasi Hamam Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Suvarnam Malikanchita Trirekhakam Mukhantage Trisutramam Varihuna Triratna Devi Sallolanila Kuntalam Prasuna Muchamupite Kada Karishyasi Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Nitam Bimbalam Paman Pushpamekhala Gune Prashastarathaki Kalapamadhyamanjule Karindra Shundadangika Baro Hashodhagorikhe Kadakarishasi Hama Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Aneka Mantra Nadamanju Nupuravaspadat Samajaraja Hamsavangsha Nikvanati Gorate Bilola Hema Vallari Vidam Vicharu Chankrame Kadakarishasi Hama Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Anantakoti Vishwaloka Namra Padmajarchite Himadrija Puromaja Mirincha Javara Prade Apara Siddhi Satpadam Guninathe Kadakarishasi Hama Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Bhakteshwari Triyeshwari Swadheshwari Sureshwari Triveda Bharatishwari Pramana Shasameshwari Rameshwari Shameshwari Pramodakanoneshwari Vrajeshwari Vrajadhipe Shri Radhike Namostute Yatimam Adbhutam Stavam Nishamya Bhanunandini Karotu Sampatam Janam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Bhavetadaiva Sanchita Trirupa Karmanashanam Bhavetadara Mandala Praveshanam Kadakarishasi Hama Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Oh Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Vrishabhananandani Srimati Radha Thakurani ki Jai Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki And now, we have come to that point in our evening or daytime for you, or whatever time, where we are going to call on the mercy of Shri Radha and Krishna to please engage us in their service through the most powerful process, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This mantra is not just a mantra. It is the sound form of the absolute truth. It is the sound form of Radha Krishna themselves. And when one realizes the holy name of the Lord, they will realize that the holy name is not different from the form, the qualities and the pastimes of the Lord. Abhinatva Nama Namino. There is no difference between Krishna and his holy name. Within his holy names, all of his pastimes are present. All of his svarups, all of his own forms are present. All of his pastimes, all of his qualities, everything is present. And it has the capacity to awaken within our hearts prem, which is the only thing that our soul requires. Our soul does not require air, or water, or food, or any other material stuff. It requires one thing, its own nature, and its own nature is to love and serve Krishna. And every other soul also has that nature, regardless of whether that soul is in the within the form of a human or an animal or a tree or an insect or a bird or a bee or an aquatic or any microscopic thing. Every jiva has its inherent nature. Jivera Swarupa hoy Krishner Nityadas. It is an eternal servant of Krishna. And already within it, it has inherent a particular serving nature which just needs to be awakened. And so the duty of every Vaishnava, the order of Mahaprabhu, is to give mercy to the jivas. Jive doya, Vaishnav seva, Krishna nam, niraparad nam, loilo paye premadhan. So, serving the Vaishnavas, also following the instructions of the Vaishnavas, this is service. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered, be merciful to the jivas. How? Give them, give them the name of Krishna. So when we're crying out, O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in your service. I am yours. Make me yours. We should also be praying for all other jivas that they can also awaken their eternal identity in loving service to Krishna. And by loudly chanting the holy names of Radha and Krishna, especially in the form of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Not only will we be benefited, but all others will also be benefited. We should have no other desire, no other hope, no other aspiration other than what can really satisfy the self. Yayatma Suprasiddhati. The self means two different kinds of selves. The supreme self, the supreme Atma of all Atmas, and this own Jivatma and all other Jivatmas. If one pleases and satisfies Krishna, then automatically all other Jivas will be pleased and satisfied. So, offering this Hare Krishna Mahamantra in service to Krishna, this is pleasing to Krishna. Kirtan is a process of bhakti, and bhakti, by its nature, is exclusively for Krishna's happiness, pleasure, and benefit. So if we endeavor to serve Krishna by offering this, what else do we offer him? We cannot offer him any material thing. We can only offer him our hearts, our devotion, and he will accept that. But through the medium of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this is the process which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself undertook to experience, to awaken that prem, and the same process he gave to all of us, to awaken this Rag Marga Bhakti, spontaneous, transcendental, eternal love and affection for Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai, Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushta. So now you're putting words in my mouth. She said, this soul does not require Gauranga potatoes. If it's Mahaprashadam, it does. And it has the name Gauranga.
Maybe we should say Gauranga spinach, and it's really authentic.
Nityananda Prabhu said, with a tear in your eye, just chant the name of my Gauranga once and I will be yours.
So we can go Gauranga! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shinitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo, Shri Gurudev Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Nityanand Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sachinandana Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Radha Vinu Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, श्रीमादप्ति एकादशी की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीश्रीमार्भक्तिवेदान्तनारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं, यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। First of all, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupar Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. In the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupar Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Rupanuga, Gauriya, Guru Varga, and to all Vaishnavas, past, present, and future, including all who are present with us today, we offer our Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam.
Radhe Shyam. I'm having some allergy today. I need it more here, maybe.
You'll cough more.
Anyhow. Okay. So before entering into Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, we will first recite the first verse of Sri Shikshashtakam by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it may be that some who are with us and following may not be able to do so many words at the same time. If you read along with it, it might help. Rudra Prabhu has posted it here. So I'm going to do it more like word for word this time. So everyone please repeat after me. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritashvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So Shri Shikshashtakam ki jai, Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. And also before entering into Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat, we will chant the first verse of Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, glorifying Shri Nityananda Prabhu and Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari. Please repeat after me. Ajanu
Ajanu
Lambita
Lambita
Bhujo
Bhujo
Kanakavadato
Kanakavadato
Sankirtanaika
Sankirtanaika
Pitaro
Pitaro
Kamalaya
Taksho
Vishvambharo
Vishvambharo
Dvijabaro
Vijabaro
Yugadharmapalo
Yugadharmapalo
Vande Jagat
Vande Jagat
Priyakaro
Priyakaro
Karunavataro
Karunavataro
Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Pratik Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. And before entering into Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat, we will first beg in the lotus foot dust of the author Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur and the commentator Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, that may even a particle of their moods which are present within these pages manifest itself within our hearts. So we're currently on text 29, and that verse is quoted. It's referencing Srimad Bhagavatam. Ye stri sangha munigane korena nindan tarao ramera rase korena stavan. Again, the translation. Sages condemn the association of women, yet they glorify Lord Balaram's association with the cowherd girls in the Ras dance. So before I continue with the commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he has pulled from all different sources, from all Vedas and Puranas and Srimad Bhagavatam and all sources about this particular subject. We should understand that when I say, or when this term women is being used, this means women for men and men for women. What the purpose of the human form of life is needs to be kept at the forefront of our minds when we're discussing spiritual subject matter. It's not about how to be happy in this world in attachment to our material bodies and the bodies of others. Bhagavatam cuts these attachments. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva sangshaya. With the sword of transcendental knowledge. It's painful because we're attached. For those who are unattached, they don't even mind the separation of their body from their soul. And they're not affected by seeing the separation or the movement, the transmigration of souls from one body to the next. Dehino sminyata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dhira, a sober or intelligent person, a real person of understanding, who understands tattva gyan, they are not disturbed or moved in the slightest by seeing the change of bodies. Just as one is not affected by seeing that one is in one body, the soul is in one body and it's a baby, then it becomes a kid, then it becomes a teenager, then it becomes a, working person, then they have kids, then they grow older, and then they dwindle. So in the same way that they're not disturbed because they understand that the soul inside that is eternal, everlasting, unchangeable, undying, living forever, and it's only moving from one form to the next. They're not disturbed by all of these things. In the same way, Srimad Bhagavatam and our Acharyas and Guru Varga, who are the mercy of Krishna coming in our lives, have a point. They have an endeavor. What is that endeavor? To awaken attachment for Krishna from within our Atma and detachment from material things. That means also whatever we're attached to of this material world. The things, the people, anything which has its temporary nature. What is the proof of bhakti? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yada Hoitukam. Srila Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosai Maharaj would tell this again and again and again. How do you know that you're progressing in bhakti? Transcendental knowledge is manifesting in the heart, by which detachment from material things, the things of this material world, and the people of this material world also takes place within the heart. It's not that we're just stopping attachment altogether. The higher taste is being awakened. Attachment for Krishna, attraction to Krishna, absorption in Krishna, attachment to his pure devotees. And so when we're hearing these subject matters, we should hear them in that context, not thinking, I am this body, and then we hear, oh, Bhagavatam is saying that if a man is attached to a woman, then it's bad. Therefore, Bhagavatam is saying I'm bad. Or Bhagavatam is saying if a woman is attached to a man, then that's bad. Therefore, I'm bad. We should not think of this body as myself, especially when we're hearing these subject matters. We should understand what is keeping that jiva, the soul, entrapped within the material body. It is these attachments that are so binding that we have been bound in samsara, anadi karma phale, since time without beginning, tasting the results of our activities. In that bhajan, anadi karma phale tori bhavan navajale, tori bare na dekhi upay. I think it is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, could be Narottam Das. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, when he's singing that bhajan, his voice is cracking and you can hear him crying. He's saying, since time without beginning, I've been bound in this ocean of samsara, of material existence, and I'm being attacked by so many different things. Trying to taste the results of my activities. And I have to experience the results of whatever activities I've done, not only in this life, but for millions and millions of lives in the past. I'm constantly drowning and being attacked, and I see no hope for deliverance. But I know, Krishna, that you are my only friend. Eheno samaya bandhu, tumi Krishna kripa sindhu. You are an ocean of mercy, Krishna. You are my only friend. So Krishna manifests to us, especially in this world, in the form of sadhus, who are giving us harikatha, and this kind of katha. The katha that separates us from our attachments in the material world by helping us to understand what is reality versus what is illusion. That is the first verse or second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you want to add something?
I was going to ask.
Say it loudly.
I was just going to ask you to maybe explain why it is historically that it seems like it is geared only toward men, and talking only toward men about their attachment to women. Because in general it makes women seem like really, really vicious and horrible. But it's also not only that, but it's the man's weakness as well. It's like a vicious circle of attraction and luring on both sides. But why does it seem, I mean, we were discussing it today, I think it's historically something that should be spoken of, because maybe devotees are new and they haven't heard these concepts, and it could be quite confronting, especially in this day and age. We're taught that we are equal. So why is it that it's always saying women, women, women?
Right. So before I answer Sudevi's question, thank you. I think you should be here to assist and add. Before I answer that, I just wanted to finish my progression of thought on that verse. To distinguish reality from illusion. This is right in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. For the welfare of all. For the benefit of all. I believe that is the second verse. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapuntrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikate Kimbaparar Ishvara Sadhyo Hridya Baruddhate Trakkatibhi Sushushibhi Takshanat. For the welfare of all. Srimad Bhagavatam has this purpose in mind. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, what is the function of the sadhu? This is how we receive Srimad Bhagavatam. He said the only function of the sadhu is to stand at the sacrificial altar with the upraised sword of transcendental knowledge to sever the heads of the sacrificial goats of our anarthas, our material attachments.
Actually, he literally says the desires of men.
Okay, the desires of men.
He actually
literally
says that.
Yes. See, I told you, you should be here to add these good points. The desires of men are like these sacrificial lambs. Now, remember, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is speaking in the context of that time in Bengal, especially it's just the way it is even still, where they would sacrifice goats in front of the goddess Kali. And so he's making this analogy or example that our sensuous desires are like these, and the sadhu stands there with the upraised sword ready to sever these attachments. What is that upraised sword? It is the truth. And he said in the form of harsh language. What is harsh? It is harsh for those who are bound and attached. But for those who are not bound and attached, it is truth, and it is also nectar. So they will see everything in Srimad Bhagavatam as nectar, whereas those of us who are bound and attached will see it as, oh, that hurt, oh, I feel that, that's painful. Why do we feel it as painful? Because we have made our identity in this material world since time without beginning, that I am this body, I am this intelligence, I am these abilities, I have this persona, and this is how I project myself. This is my family, this is my country, this is my town, this is my city, this is my village. I and mine. Aham mameti. Aham mamaeti. Aham mama iti. This concept of I and mine, which is all actually not true in the ultimate sense. Everything belongs to Krishna, including this Jivatma. And this body and everything in relation to this body, it all belongs to Krishna, and everything is meant to be utilized in His service. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavats, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, the person Bhagavatam and the scripture Bhagavatam have their function to awaken attachment for Krishna and to cut our attachments to the illusory or temporary material world. I just wanted to give that as an introduction. Now I'm going to address Sudevi's question, which is very important. Why does it seem that it's really geared toward men and a lot about women and not as much geared toward women? When Srimad Bhagavatam was being spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, how many rishis were there? This question, you get a mango smoothie sweetened with lychees and bananas. How many rishis were there? How many lady rishis were there? Do we know? So certain subject matters are spoken to a particular set or group of people. When any Gurudev is speaking to a group of brahmacharis, the katha that they will give to those brahmacharis will be for their benefit. So you can say time, place, and circumstance. When Gurudev was speaking to his daughters, he would speak a different subject. He would ask everyone, don't come to the dham during parikrama to search for a partner. Here at this time, you should get your full nectar and shelter from Harikatha.
And let others.
And allow others to do that as well. At any other time, you can do these things, but not at the time of the festival, not at the time of parikrama. Don't make it about searching for any partner. He wanted us to focus our energy. When Gurudev was speaking to his daughters, he would give so much encouragement. Oh, you should preach boldly and strongly, like the disciples, like the lady disciples of Srila Prabhupada, he would say. With that kind of energy and enthusiasm, with that kind of conviction. And he would give so much affection and kindness. And he would say, even the father, he has more affection for his daughters. And so
they
he would
asked
give.
him, are you like this too? And he said, yes. That he has more affection for his daughters.
Yes, he said he has more affection for his daughters. And so he would give so much inspiration. And when he was there with the brahmacharis, he would also speak very heavy harikatha, shastrakatha, warning them of the pitfalls of bondage in this material world. So he was speaking to them according to their function, their time, place, and circumstance. Like Nard Muni. What did he speak to the 10,000 sons of Daksha? He spoke katha, to separate them from material attachments and to engage their minds on Krishna. So much so that even though they were the sons of Prajapati Daksha, who were supposed to be doing meditation for the purpose of being able to create progeny and populate the universe, by the Harikatha of Narada Muni, this is the proof of their proper hearing, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayara Hoitukam. They develop transcendental knowledge and automatically detachment from all material things. In essence, they all became sannyasis. Daksha Prajapati became so angry with him and with Narada Muni, and he made another 10,000 sons. Narada Muni came by and said, "Oh, you see your older brothers? Look how peaceful they are, how happy they are. You should follow in the path of your older brothers." All of these ones were like, "Yes, you are right." And they followed their older brothers. Daksha Prajapati became so upset and angry, he cursed Narada Muni. "I'm trying to do my duty here. My service is to populate the universe. I am a Prajapati, after all. Because you keep disturbing this, I curse you that you cannot remain in any place longer than it takes to milk a cow, so that you cannot create this kind of disturbance." So Narada Muni, Then Daksha Prajapati had numerous daughters who he married to many different sages, and by that they were able to populate. So Narada Muni, we know, he wasn't able to remain in any place very long, but this is the nature of a sannyasi also. They just move from place to place to place. Narada Muni was able to remain within Dwarka because no curse could affect him in such a place. So he was able to remain there, always witnessing the pastimes of Krishna or in any holy dham, but not in any other place generally. And Srila Prabhupada said that because he took so many of the young children from their parents, means these teenagers, and engaged them in the service of Krishna, so also that same curse has come to him. And then he was laughing and joking, but serious actually. He said, "And now I'm going to pass that curse on to all of you." So that you cannot remain in any one place long. You have to continue traveling and preaching the message of Krishna consciousness. So, in the connection of Sudevi's question, we hear it's so much heavy leaning in that direction. Traditionally, before 100 to 200 years ago, everyone had their roles and it was quite fixed, like nature. Nature also has fixed roles. Something came to me today, and there was a bunch of bumblebees, little bees that did not have any home. And they were swarming and they had collected in a certain place, but they're considered docile if they're not guarding anything particular. So this lady bee catcher with her bare hands was grabbing all of these bumblebees and feeding them into a hive, hoping that there was a queen there. They were very docile because they were homeless. They had nowhere to go. They didn't know what to do. Apparently they had lost their queen. She didn't see any queen among them. She happened to have a queen bee with her. She took that queen bee, put it inside the hive, and immediately they all started crowding around and they accepted her as their queen. And then they started following the law or the rule of nature regarding the natural duties of bees in relation to the queen. It just was like that. So nature has a particular way. Over time, nature has taken different courses. So previously, the lady's natural function was at home, and I'm just saying this is historically. It was within society, like bee culture, and dog culture and lion culture, they have all of their own cultures. If you see wolves out in the wild, if you see lions out in the wild, if you see humans in nature, previously it was a certain way. Nowadays, due to so much, I would say, unnatural disruption, things have adjusted. So what has happened over time? We see that now it has become a very different kind of scenario. So according to the scenario that we are dealing with currently, we also must make adjustment. What is the adjustment? Everyone is free. Everyone is of their own. Everyone is independent. And so when we are speaking these kathas are not just being spoken to men, they are also being spoken to women. In other words, we should understand, as our Srila Gurudev said again and again, it is from men regarding women and from women regarding men. So when these kathas are being spoken, previously they were mostly being spoken to men, except for Kapila Dev was speaking to his mother, Devahuti. That the original was there. What had happened? Kardama Muni, the father of Kapila Dev, had just left home. Before she was even married, she knew that he was not detached and he was going to leave home at a certain point. Why? How? Because she had heard that the Supreme Lord would manifest through her womb. And when that took place, then he would leave home. So there was already expectation of this. So Kapila Dev, seeing her distress that her husband had left home, spoke all of these subject matters very, very clearly to her, endeavoring to separate the conception of attachment to the things of this world from the nature of the soul toward the transcendental realm. And you saw at the end of yesterday, Kapila Dev directly told her, from the man's perspective, the attachment toward and the attraction toward beautiful women is binding and distracting from Krishna and will keep one in samsara or bring them into the hellish conditions. And for women, toward men likewise. So we see a lot of you can say, energy which is being utilized or focused from the perspective of the male vision regarding what is unfavorable for them. But we should understand that this applies both ways. For men to women and from women to men. That this attachment, this bondage to the material things, to the mundane things of this world, to the bodies, to the enjoyment that one attains through interaction of the bodies, through all of the things which are collected in relation to trying to increase the enjoyment of the bodies, to the extensions that manifest as a result of enjoyment via these bodies. All of that is binding in this material world, and it halts the progression of the soul toward perfection. If it's more and more binding, then it is halting or slowing, drastically slowing our progress toward perfection. The function or the purpose of the human form of life is to endeavor for perfection. Labdva sudurlabamidam bahusambhavante manushyamataramaниtyamapi hadhira turnam yate tanapatit anumrityu yavan nishreyashaya vishaya kalu sarvatasyat. This human form of life is very rarely attained. And although through this human form one can attain the same kind of pleasures and enjoyments that any other species can attain, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, we also do the same things as every other species. And it may be a more glorified version, but it's the same thing essentially. What is the difference? Only through the human form, not through any other lower species, lower meaning animal species, or even through the demigod form. They're enjoying too much. They're also having too many extremes of happiness and different things. Extreme bodily beauty, extreme enjoyment, extreme pride of birth and wealth and all of these things. Only through the human form, manushyam, artadam anityamapi hadhira. Only from the human form can one endeavor for perfection. So Bhagavatam says that until that time, when the body can no longer be maintained when the body and soul separate. Until that time, one should utilize every moment in the endeavor for perfection. What is that perfection? That is Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Prem. And so there needs to be some kind of way to help us endeavor, and that is to hear the truth of Shastra, which takes us away from the bondage of this mental and bodily concept and brings us toward the reality of the nature of the soul in relation to the Lord.
So it's not an attack on women, it's an attack on false identification.
It's definitely not an attack on women. It is an attack on false identification. And really, it's not the women, it's the man's, this bodily construct with its mind, intelligence, ego, and desires, which is being impelled in that direction. It's being impelled like that. So, Bhagavatam's function, our Shastra's function, our Acharya's function, is to somehow help us to distinguish reality from illusion, to break our attachments from the material world, and to increase our attachment to Krishna. This is their function. And so if we keep that at the forefront of our consciousness, of our mind, instead of looking at this as, ooh, it's misogynistic, is that the word I just saw? Yes. Or, something which is, so many try to use it, scripture. I'm going to read what Jiva Pavana Prabhu wrote. Historically, in religious institutions dominated by men, there has been misogynist attitudes toward women. These misogynists will use scripture and even the words of the preceptor to excuse these attitudes. It is natural that women feel offended by this, thus the endless spiral of the misidentification of the body and the battle of the sexes commences and destroys the basic understanding of our eternal spiritual identities. Thank you for saying it so succinctly. This is very important to understand. It is those persons who are heavily in the bodily conception of life that are trying to blame others, everyone else, for their problems. And it's from men to women and women to men, and this race to that race and this to that, and it's all blaming everyone else. In the ultimate reality, in the background, it is all karmically driven. And the process of bhakti removes all of that. Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja ahang tvang sarva papebhyo moksha. What is he saying there? I will free you from all of the results of your sinful activities in millions and billions and trillions of births if you simply surrender unto me. And the results of all of those sinful activities also manifest in the form of our bodies, our mindsets, all of the illusions in relation to these bodies and everything else. How does one surrender to Krishna? That is the entire point of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the point of Bhagavad Gita, and that is the point of associating with sadhus, with Vaishnavas. So unfortunately, there are those, too many of those, who try to use scripture to increase their pratishta. Oh, you are lesser, you are low, it's your fault, you are this, you are that. I remember seeing that when I was younger. So many people in the temple, new visitors, getting so offended and like, and they would get up and leave, walk away. And the people who were doing that, it was almost like to make themselves feel better, push you back here, do this, do that to you. This is not the purpose of this. This is to separate us from our mental and physical attachments to those things which are stopping us from developing or awakening our love and affection to Krishna. So there needs to be both. The positive aspect, yes, you must develop attachment, but with all of those bindings, how are you going to move forward? like many anchors tying us to the shore. And yet we need to move forward. In this connection, our Srila Gurudev used to tell one katha, one story, that there was a party, a wedding party, and they needed to go downstream some miles to get to the location of the wedding for a particular time. There's a Vedic astrological calculation at what time a wedding should be performed. Even many Indian weddings, they have this massive big party. They invite everyone eats, and there's some external kind of facade of the wedding, but then the real wedding takes place at any auspicious time. It might even be 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's just the immediate family in a small little ceremony at that time. So they needed to get to a certain place at a certain time. So all of the wedding party got on this boat. They went underneath inside, and they were enjoying and drinking and taking bhang and everything else, completely inebriated, partying all night. And they had told the boatmen, you should row, we have to get to our place on time. And so the boatmen were rowing very hard. And in the morning when they came up, they saw, hey, we have not moved a single inch. And they started becoming angry at the boatmen. What happened? They said, what are you talking about? We've been rowing so hard all night. Look at us. We're exhausted and we are sweating and we're completely drained of all energy. And then the people who were the wedding party, they looked and they realized, oh, we did not unbind ourselves from the dock. We did not lift the anchor, in essence. So we did not move forward, although we expended so much energy. So 2 things are necessary. We need to also lift that anchor. We need to somehow unbind ourselves from the docks. How can that be done? We have our goal. And we know, yes, I need to attain that goal, but I'm still bound. So the sadhus come, and with the sword of transcendental knowledge, they cut at the knots of attachment that are binding us in this material world. This is their function. To utilize scripture to establish that I'm a man and you must submit to me because I'm a man, but at the same time trying to enforce on the other that you're a spirit soul, this is kind of an abuse of Shastra, isn't it? We should all come to this understanding that we are spirit souls. Of course, everyone has their place in the function and everything within Vedic society, Varnashram and everything, it's there. But this kind of misuse of position and scripture to increase one's kanaka, kamani, and pratishta, one's wealth, their sense gratification, their position, their name, their fame, their power, and all of these things, this is not of the devotional sentiment. In different societies, in different times, there were different requirements. And so those requirements may have been there at different times. When Srila Prabhupada first started ISKCON, I remember when the men were here and the ladies were here. It was half and half. And Srila Prabhupada gave so much encouragement. He used to have Yamuna and Jadurani and so many. They were preaching. They were standing up in front of thousands of people in India on stage, preaching to pandals full of thousands of men. Prabhupada was engaging them, encouraging them, infusing them with Shakti. The ladies were also preaching. They were there giving classes. And I remember when the shift happened, suddenly everyone was pushed to the back of the temple room who had a female body. Even once, Sudevi was leading the evening Arti Kirtan in Los Angeles. There was no one else in the temple room except for the pujari, and no one was leading Kirtan. So she went in and she started leading the Kirtan. 15 minutes later, a brahmachari came in. And he told her to stop. And she said, why? She said, no one was here. No one was even leading the Kirtan or anything. I was the only person. He said, it's disturbing to the brahmacharis. She said, then you should be here on time. like that. So these kind of things also, people come and they start superimposing their own mindsets onto these things. Our Srila Gurudev, you can see, right up until his departure, always ladies on one half, men on the other half. He didn't mix them and have the intermingling because, well, you know what happens when there's intermingling. Then the giggles, the laughing, the note passing, and everything else. But he had them, men and women, right in the front. He had so many of the ladies standing up and speaking, also preaching. He sent myself and Sudevi and Vishaka and Shyamurani Didi and so many others out preaching as his representatives. So he was empowering and encouraging and not trying to repress, suppress, depress, and oppress. But those who have these, their mental superimpositions, who like to present themselves or put themselves up, they will repress, suppress, oppress, and depress. But this is not bhakti. So I want to read a little bit. Yes, it's very easy to abuse Shastra. It's very, very common. In fact, most of the greatest demons that this world has ever seen, they were expert in Shastra, all Shastra, and they were expert in abusing it as well. So I only have a few minutes more to read, but I just wanted to give a holistic background so that when we are reading these subjects, because we have another 10 pages of this, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada has literally extracted from all different scriptures. This is like the condensed version of all of it. So if we can survive this, then there's a reason for it. There's a reason for this. This is to help us to separate our material, mundane attachments from the transcendental Rasalila pastimes of Baladev Prabhu. And then we're going to go into the pastimes of Sachinanda and Gaurahari. And we need to understand that these are not mundane in the slightest. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada right here is taking his sword. Here's my sword. And he's cutting these misunderstandings, these superimpositions of the mundane onto the transcendental. So he's cutting these sahajya tendencies and even cutting these I am a man and therefore I am a woman and therefore I. All of these things they're cutting right from the beginning. This is called Kaitava Dharma. All of the cheating forms of religion or belief systems. Cheating. It's not true and it's not real. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. I, Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayo Das Das Anudas. I am an eternal servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the beloved of the gopis. And yet, still there's requirement for us to maintain some sort of social etiquettes. Jaiva Dharma explains this in the chapters Nitya and Naimittika Dharma. We must maintain social etiquettes, and even according to the current society that we are within, as not to create too much disturbance. That's why Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami did not enter into the Jagannath temple, although they were most qualified to do so, because there were social norms and social etiquettes at the time, so they took that humble position. They took the humble position. So depending on whatever society we're in, if you're in India, you have to behave a certain way. Otherwise, especially in Vrindavan, there's a lot of very antiquated, I'm using this term antique, mindset, mixing with a whole new modern media mindset, which creates a very uncomfortable situation. Any lady knows that she should not go out alone at night. It's just not right. And that's anywhere. So that's just intelligent. That's intelligent. And we can cry about it and say it's not right, but if you're intelligent, then you use common sense and avoid, in essence, getting yourself into a dangerous situation. Anybody with it, just because there's so many wild dogs in the street, I wouldn't want to go out alone late at night. It's quite dangerous. So, with that being said, according to time, place, circumstance, situation, there are different requirements according to whatever body we have as well. So the most important thing is to be under the guidance of a tattvadarshi sadhu, one who is a knower and seer of the truth, and follow their guidelines in order that we will quickly give up these misidentifications with the body, the mind, the intelligence, and those things that are our attachments, and we will accept our identification as quickly as possible as an eternal loving servant of Krishna. I think I just answered your question, Gopali. To be under the guidance of the sadhu, who can understand what is appropriate for time, place, and circumstance. Srila Prabhupada was performing weddings, and he said, according to sannyas dharma, this is forbidden. But in order to, for the time, place, and circumstance, he had to do such a thing. And so he, in essence, had to adjust the rules for that time, place, and circumstance. Whereas he might, in any other situation or in any other time period, not have to do that. But for that particular time, place, and circumstance, it was necessary. And our Gurudev also did just like that. So to be under the guidance of the sadhus who understand and see things from the holistic perspective, know what's favorable and unfavorable, then we can move step by step carefully in a way that we don't either increase our material egos or step on the egos of others or be offensive or anything like that. Always be under guidance. This is the most important instruction regarding the path of bhakti. Always anugatya. So, I hope that I was able to set a scene here. I just wanted to do that because I looked ahead and I was like, my God, okay, this is intense. This is intense. He's literally condensed and collected from everywhere in all Shastras and put it in these 14 pages. So just keep that mindset. What is the goal and the function of this katha? It's not to repress. It's not to push down. It's to cut our false ego, our false sense of material self, and establish us in transcendental conception, in transcendental thought process. Narada Muni speaks the following words to Maharaj Parashinabarhi in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.25.6. Those who are interested only in a so-called beautiful life, namely remaining as a householder entangled by sons and a wife and searching after wealth, think that such things are life's ultimate goal. Such people simply wander in different types of bodies throughout the material existence without finding out the ultimate goal of life. So very clearly it's saying that the purpose here is to search out the ultimate goal of life. But if one is simply bound in all of this material thing, one cannot do so. Narada Muni describes the story of Puranjan and Puranjani to Maharaj Prachinabarhi in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from chapter 25, verse 10 to chapter 29, verse 51. Yet he particularly points out the ill effects of associating with women and the benefits of pleasing Lord Hari in verse 28 of the 28th chapter. Now remember, for him, it's the attachment and association with her. For her, it's the attachment and association with him. Again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.29, 54, 55, Narada Muni further explains to Maharaj Prachinabarhi, my dear king, woman who is very attractive in the beginning, but in the end very disturbing, is exactly like a flower, which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires, and he enjoys sex just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification, from his tongue to his genitals, and this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. This is all quotation directly from Srimad Bhagavatam. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. My dear king, just try to understand the allegorical position of the deer. Be fully conscious of yourself and give up the pleasure of hearing about promotion to heavenly planets by fruitive activity. Give up household life, which is full of sex, as well as stories about such things, and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the liberated souls. In this way, please give up your attraction for material existence. There's a reference here. Srila Prabhupada used to refer to modern media and modern music as rubbish sex songs. And media as well, movies, television, and all of that. It's all enforcing that this material world is the place of my enjoyment. And I can enjoy through the medium of sensual pleasures. So here, he's saying, give up that activity as well as the stories about such things. So by entertaining ourselves with stories about such things, in essence, we are also binding ourselves further. I don't think any more need to be said on that. Except that our Gurudev said, one picture is worth 1,000 lifetimes in hell. And so if we're watching these things, which are a minimum of 24 frames per second, then we're getting 24 pictures every second. And they are all making impressions in our minds and in our hearts. I remember stuff that I saw on television at my grandmother's house when I was 7 years old, and it left impressions in my mind. So we cannot say that these things don't create impressions. They further impress us and bind us in this material world. So give up the stories about such things as well if we want to progress on the path of bhakti. If we don't really care about progressing on the path of bhakti, then we can maintain our bondage in this material world by, instead of absorbing our minds in Harikatha and Sadhu Seva and everything else of that nature, Krishna's topics of Krishna consciousness, we can absorb our minds in topics of Maya consciousness, and that will also bind us further in Maya. Well, nowadays with high definition, Gopali, you can get more than 24 frames a second. Very high definition. So, in this way, please give up your attraction for material existence. That is the point of all of this. They're telling these things so that we can understand it from the realistic point of view, reality distinguished from illusion, so that we can give up the attraction for material existence and take up attraction for transcendental existence. In his narration about the householder, Vaisnava, King Priyavrat, Sri Shukadeva Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.129 as follows. He greatly loved his wife, Barhishmati, and with the increase of days, their exchange of nuptial love also increased. By her feminine behavior, as she dressed herself, walked, got up, smiled, laughed, and glanced about, Queen Barhishmati increased his energy. So anyone knows, if they've ever had a crush on anyone or been in love, every little thing that's mentioned here, the way she dressed herself, walked, got up, smiled, laughed, glanced about, from him to her, her to him, every little thing is a source of instigation, I think that's the word. Increasing one's energy, but what energy? That energy to enjoy. Thus, although he was a great soul, he appeared lost in the feminine conduct of his wife. He behaved with her just like an ordinary man, but actually he was a great soul. In the same chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 37, King Priyavrat condemned his life of material enjoyment as follows. Alas, how condemned I have become because of my sense gratification. I have now fallen into material enjoyment, which is exactly like a covered well. I have had enough. I am not going to enjoy any more. Just see how I have become like a dancing monkey in the hands of my wife. Because of this, I am condemned. Interesting here, he says, I've had enough. Kunti Devi in her prayers to Krishna says that one surrenders unto Krishna only after they have become materially exhausted. So in this case, you see that he has become materially exhausted, meaning he's realized his plight. If we understand our situation, that we have been cycling in samsara through millions and millions and billions and trillions of different bodies since forever, and we have not been able to extract ourselves by our own potency. We have not been able to free ourselves from the pangs of material suffering, the miseries caused by our own minds and bodies, the miseries caused by other living entities, and those caused by the devas, adidaivik, like earthquakes, floods, drought, what have you, tornadoes and hurricanes and everything else. Miseries caused by the devas. Sometimes they say acts of God. Miseries caused by other living entities. So that can be viruses, bacteria, other humans or animals or mosquitoes or what have you. And also miseries caused by our own mind, which is the worst kind of misery. Even if everything is okay, still we will become very, very distressed and worried about this and that and everything else. And we've been experiencing this forever. In that bhajan bhajo hure mana Shri Nanda Nandana abhay charanar vindare, they're saying Sita atapa bata barishna edine jamini jagire bifale sebinu kripana durjana chapala sukha labalagire. In the day, in the night, in the heat, in the cold, in the wind, in the rain, in all kinds of situations, working, slaving day and night, struggling for what? A little bit of pleasure. Mostly so much strife, so many difficulties, struggling hard through all of these difficulties so that we can get some little bit of satisfaction. And even there are people in the material world that understand that they cannot get any satisfaction. We cannot really find true satisfaction in the material world, even if we find some temporary satisfaction, because the soul itself cannot be satisfied by any of this. So it will always be unsatisfied. The soul can only find its satisfaction in its nature. If that nature is aligned with its goal, what is that? Loving service to Krishna. Only then can the soul find its satisfaction. And it will always increase more and more and more. So on this note, since it's getting late, we're going to revert to the beginning of this session. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadabagni nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritashvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. All glory, all victory to the holy names of the Lord. Shri Krishna sankirtanam means the congregational chanting of the holy names, glories, pastimes of the Lord, of Krishna. It cleanses the mind and the heart of all kinds of inebrities, of all kinds of untruths, of all kinds of bindings that we've had since forever. It cleans that mirror of the heart, enabling us to see ourselves and our beloved Lord. It awakens that relationship. Vidyavadhu jivanam. It also completely wipes out all kinds of material suffering. Bhavamahadabagni nirvapanam. This endless blazing fire. Sometimes it is said forest fire. Our Gurudev said it is like an ocean of oil that is on fire. Have you ever seen an oil fire? Whew, very hot, very dangerous. We've been bound in this forever. Nirvapanam. And then like the moon, so cooling, but not just one, like thousands of moons. Shreyakairava chandrika vitaranam. So cooling. Not just extinguishing the fire, but also giving us that medicine, that cooling medicine that we require. Anandam buddhivardhanam. And also giving us bliss at every step, nectar at every step. Purna amrita ashvadanam. Tasting nectar at every step. And endless bliss. Sarvatma snapanam. Sarva Atma means all parts of our being. Even this external thing. The body, the mind, the intelligence, the everything, and the Atma. Sarva Atma Snapanam. Everything is satiated by this Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Shri Krishna Sankirtana ki jai. Harer Naam eva kevalam. Harer Naam, Harer Naam, Harer Naam eva kevalam. Kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva. Gatiranyata. There's no other way. No other way, no other way in this age of Kali to attain perfection other than taking shelter of Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Harer Naam, Harer Naam, Harer Naam. So Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Shachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai, Patit Pavana Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Rupa Anuga Guru Varga ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Om Madhavati Ekadashi ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Hari Bol, Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev. Oh Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Go!
Hari Hari Bol.
Shri Gurudev ki
Jai.
Prabhupada
Ki Jai.
Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga
Ki Jai.
Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki
Jai.
प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम शशिनंदन गौर हरि की
जय।
राधा विनु बिहारी जू की
जय।
जय राधा रमन जू की जय गिरिराज महाराज की जय
जय।
हरि नाम संकीर्तन की
जय।
जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय
जय।
माधवती एकादशी की
जय।
जय गौर भक्त वृंद की जय
जय।
श्रीताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hari Hari Bol.
गोविंद बिहारी जू की
जय।
जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे
जय जय श्री राधे श्याम
गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hari Hari Bol.
So thank you all very much for being with us today and giving us the opportunity to remember the beautiful teachings of our Gurudev and Guru Varga, and especially on this day to really go deep into this subject matter through many different perspectives, but trying to establish first and foremost what the purpose is, what our goal is. I feel very appreciative to all of you for allowing us this opportunity to really meditate and go deeply into these subject matters, and just for being with us for the reading and study of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Also, we cannot repay you. We feel indebted to each and every one of you for daily giving us the opportunity to follow our Gurudev's order. Or Guru Seva is our life and soul. So, Dandavat Pranam. We look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radha Vinu Bihari Ju Sachinandana
Gaur Hari Ki Jai. Chivriamo domani. Hasta mañana. Kal milenge. Tat morgen. Bis morgen. Nitai haula. Radhe Radhe Sham. Anjali, I love that you notice every little detail. Thank you. I do see that. Maybe I don't comment, but it's really, really sweet.
Did she notice the details of Krishna's turban?
Well, she noticed the Sringasans for Thakurji, and they noticed everything. One thing I just want to tell you, it's kind of a secret. Tomorrow is Sonam's birthday, and she's offering an outfit to Thakurji tomorrow. So it's her birthday offering to the Lord. So make sure you come for darshan and for so many flower offerings for Sonam tomorrow.
Jai.
Jai. Okay, Radhe Radhe, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe Sham.
Radhe Sham.